Ragin Cajuns football is picked to win the Sun Belt West, but will they live up to the hype? Let's discuss it here on Ragin Rundown. What's good, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into another episode of Ragin Rundown. All Cajuns, all the time. I'm your host, Jamarcus Fitzpatrick, but you can always call me Fitz. And in today's episode, we are officially inching closer to talking season. Football season is right around the corner, but right now we are right in the midst of talking season where we're talking about a lot of different topics as the season progresses and we get closer to fall camp. Eventually, when the first kickoff will happen in September. So we will be talking about a preseason ranking coming out and how Louisiana stacks up in that. We'll talk about the players that are listed on that preseason honors list as well. And we'll give some kudos to Cody Brash, who was drafted in this year's MLB draft. Let's start off with football, as that is going to be what is upon us very soon. Sunbelt Media Days, as I'm recording this episode, will be on begin on Wednesday. I'll be down there in New Orleans for Wednesday and Thursday. I'll have a scheduled one-on-one interview with former UL head coach Billy Napier on Wednesday, and then obviously talking to the Ragin Cajuns and said players that Thursday morning. But last week, Phil Steele, who is a longtime sports writer, very well respected in the business, pretty much all of the postseason award list, the Heisman, the Mackey, the Davey O'Brien, the Lombardi, all of those trophies that you hear about at the end of the season. He is on that voting committee. He released his preseason all Sunbelt team and also the predictions of what he had in terms of who will win the Sunbelt East and the Sunbelt West. So to some, it may be a surprise, but to me, this isn't a huge surprise. He picks Louisiana to win the Sunbelt West. Last year, they were picked to win the Sunbelt West by the coaches poll. We have not seen that come out just yet, but once we do, we will more than likely react here on the show. But Phil Steele picks Louisiana to win the Sunbelt West. Mike Desormeaux enters yet another season at the helm of the Ragin Cajuns, and it's very clear that Phil Steele is leaning into the maturity that is on this roster. So his projected order is Louisiana, Troy, Arkansas State, Louisiana Tech, South Alabama, ULM, and then Southern Miss. And to me, I think that checks out fairly well. I'm not privy to a ton of what other schools in the Sun Belt look like in terms of roster. And so I kind of started trying to do a little research and dig a little bit. And Yahoo Sports had an article that came out in May listing all of the returning starters that will be coming back for every single FBS school. And in the Western Division, Arkansas State will return 10 starters, 7 on offense, 3 on defense. UL returns 10 starters, 8 on offense, 2 on defense. Tech returns 8, 4 and 4. South Alabama returns 5, 2 on offense, 3 on defense. Southern Miss with just 1 returning overall starter. Troy with 5, 4 on offense, 1 on defense. ULM with 5 overall, 3 on offense, and 2 on defense. So it's very clear that Phil Steele is looking at the route of the more experience that you have coming back on your roster, the better off that you will be. And I would have to agree with him. I think that if Louisiana is able to stay healthy, which is something that they weren't able to do last season, we saw how decimated they were on the offensive line, starting redshirt freshmen, true freshmen on the offensive line. They were so decimated that getting to 6-6 was an absolute miracle. Just getting to a bowl game was a miracle. We remember how they were 2-5 at one point in the season, or 2-6, I believe, and they rattled off 4 straight, and they were able to gain bowl eligibility. Like, that was a miracle in itself. Lunch Winfield leading the offense, defense having key moments like on the road at Arkansas State and the comeback victory that they had against Marshall. Like, all of those different games that happened were all a result of just these guys willing themselves to say, we want a 13th game. So if Louisiana is able to stay healthy, I think that the sky's the limit for them to be able to capture the Sun Belt West and find their way into the championship game. Now, later, once we get a little bit closer to the season and I hear some fall camp reports and things like that, I'll try to make a prediction about what I think this team will look like overall in terms of record. And also, we'll go down game by game. Like I said, I tend to agree with this. Um, Troy will be returning their quarterback Tucker Kilcrease, who gave you a lot of fits there on the road. He's back for you, or he's back for Troy. That is, Arkansas State. They lost Jalen Rayner to the transfer portal, but they returned a lot of their offensive linemen. From what I'm seeing, Louisiana Tech is going to be the newcomer on the block, so they're going to be scrappy. Southern Miss, I just told you how decimated they were, just having one returner coming back and a new head coach at the helm. ULM and South Alabama kind of fall there near the bottom because of the number of experience that they have there. But being picked to win the Sun Belt West does not win you any football games. We know that. This is just a talking point and it's something to talk about. But what it does is it grows the target on your back, because now other teams will say, hey guys, this is bulletin board material. They think this is what's happening in other locker rooms. They're going to say, hey guys, people around the country, people in the league, sports writers, all of this stuff like that believe that UL is a better program than you are. Go out and prove that they aren't. That's what's going to happen. And what UL is going to have to do is respond and say, yes, we are. Let me show you how we do it. That's what's going to have to happen. Very similar to what they did in the 2024 season when they were able to reach the Sun Belt Championship game. They were very experienced on that team, and now they have a ton of experience coming back. They mentioned about 8 starters offensively. I'm not sure if they're counting on the offensive line, but Shelton Sampson is a returner. Brock Chappelle is a returner. Caden Morrow, Cooper Fordham, George Jackson would be considered a returning starter because he started at the beginning of the season. Caden Jensen, and I guess maybe you could, and obviously Lunch Winfield, and I guess maybe you could consider Jacoby Isom being a returning starter for you because he did return in a lot of instances. But then defensively, Brent Gordon Jr. was penciled in as a starter. Marion Ilium was a starter from the beginning. And then after that, Fitzgerald West, Maxie Bodwin were guys that started in certain games, but other games they didn't, and all those things like that. So I'm not sure if they're pulling from day one penciled in starters or how they may be looking at it. But defensively, you are young, but you have guys that have had rotator experience to be able to get in the mix. The Priest Ash, Maxie Bodwin, Fitzgerald West, Chase Edwards, like guys like that have been in the mix to get their experience up front, to give you an opportunity that if things can click well with some of the transfers that you're going to mix in there, like Tito Chikure and Broderick Stewart, if you're able to mix that in really well, then things could pop for you really well defensively. So it'll be interesting to see how that will shape up. Like I said, this puts a ton of pressure, even more so because last season we were saying that this team was really good and they had experience, and it would just be a matter of, can they be able to put it all together? The injury bug bit them, but they made their way to the finish line. Now, once again, it's the same thing. They have the pieces put together. Now, can they get to the finish line, stay healthy, and be able to achieve the goals that they have? Also, he picked 11 players from the UL's roster to be on the All Sunbelt preseason team, and it goes as follows. First team was Shelton Sampson and Brent Gordon Jr. Second team was Lunch Winfield, Cooper Fordham, George Jackson, Fitzgerald West, Marion Ilium, Jacorian Norris as a punt returner, I believe it was. Fourth team is Darrell Smith, Caden Jensen, and Zay Alexander. Zay, I think, had a couple of snaps. I have to go back and look for sure, but I think that he was thrown in the mix there on the offensive line. Obviously, Caden being a huge part of your offense at the tight end position. Darrell Smith, a lot of buzz that we talked about with him from what he did during the offseason and in spring football, so he appears on this list. But to me, there's no surprise that Shelton Sampson and Brent Gordon Jr. pop up on your first team, right? Brent Gordon came in, I think, the second or third week of the season, took over their starting role at cornerback, and never looked back. He is your penciled in starter. He is a guy that is going to be able to shut down the one side of the field for you as a cornerback. And teams are going to look at him and they're going to try to scheme around saying, how do we not throw that way? Or how do we put him in positions where we can exploit something from him and all of those things like that? He is going to be the one corner. Shelton Sampson, vice versa, is the receiver that they're saying, how can we take him away? How can we make sure that he doesn't go off? How do we make sure he doesn't get 2 touchdowns? How do we make sure he doesn't get 150 yards receiving, all of those things like that? And by him getting a lot of that attention, that's going to force guys like Rajee Dennis and Trent Cheney and Landon Strother and Russell Babineau and Jaden Johnson. It's going to force guys like that to say, hey, he's getting all of the attention. Now you're going to have one-on-one opportunities. Can you come up and make these big plays? On the second team, Lunch Winfield probably would have been higher if he would have played the full season. Obviously, with him coming in midway through the season at the start of conference play in the Marshall game, I think that's why he comes up on second team in this one. This is a really big year for him. This is the first time since Levi Lewis was the starting quarterback that we're coming into a season where the Cajuns have their starting quarterback. They know who it is, and they are building the offense around and catering to him to make sure that they can be successful. The offense will go as Lunch Winfield will go. So this will be a big year for him. Cooper Fordham, he is a force for you there in the middle. George Jackson will be coming back from injury, only playing, I believe, in 2 games last season. Fitzgerald West was a very consistent player for you up front on the defensive line. Marion Ilium had some injuries there in the middle of the season, but was really solid there at the star position. And then Jacorian Norris, like I said, he is now moved back to receiver, if I'm not mistaken. He was originally brought in as a safety. He's now at receiver. So he can be thrown in the mix offensively, but he has a lot of pop for you on the special team end of things. So you have a lot of mixture in there, but the key thing that we're seeing out of here is a lot of veteran leadership. The youngest players that you have there in the mix is like Darrell Smith, Jacorian Norris, and Brent Gordon Jr. A lot of these other guys are juniors and seniors. So you have an experienced bunch of guys, and it'll be exciting to see how things will all shape out. I'm going to take a quick timeout, and when we come back, we'll talk about some of the main storylines that we'll be looking forward to as we head into Sunbelt Media Days and as we get closer to fall camp. We'll discuss it all when we come back here on Ragin Rundown. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Ragin Rundown. We're going to get back into the action in just a second. But before we do, if you are watching this on YouTube, please do me a favor. Please like it, share it, and leave a comment down below. But most importantly, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're listening, please follow the podcast feed, rate the show, and leave us a review because that's going to help us get in front of more Ragin Cajun fans just like yourself. So going into fall camp, there are going to be huge storylines that we're going to be looking at. I've been periodically mentioning them throughout, but we'll go back over what I believe will be some of the biggest things that we're going to need to look at as we head into fall camp. The first thing is the most important thing, which I just mentioned, so I won't harbor on it much. Lunch Winfield at quarterback. He's preseason. He's gotten preseason recognition. Now it's going to be about how can he elevate this offense. We saw how lethal he could be with his legs in the Marshall game. We saw how he could throw through the air in the Marshall game. Now it is going to be about putting it all together and having an elite level of focus, having an elite level of reading the defense and understanding what they're trying to do on the back ends with safeties and in the secondary and all of those things like that, being able to go through your reads and find the open receiver. And then obviously if things break down, being able to scramble, extend plays with your legs, and then being able to move the chains as well. Like I said before, this offense goes as Lunch Winfield will go. The second one offensively is Shelton Sampson. Obviously, like I said, it's not so much as going to be what is he going to do, because we've seen when he's on, he is one of the best, not just in the Sun Belt, but potentially in the G5 level as well in terms of wide receivers. The more important thing is going to be who is going to be the best second, third, fourth, maybe even fifth option, because we know UL likes to utilize a bunch of receivers and rotating guys in. And I mentioned some names of guys already that you have in the mix, Kadarius Wade and Landon Strother and Trenton Chaney and Russell Babineau and Jaden Johnson and Raji Dennis and Jacorian Norris as a special teams guy, but also being moved there to receiver. How are these guys going to step up when coverage is rolled in Shelton Sampson's direction and they have one-on-one opportunities? How are those guys going to be able to step up? How is he going to, Shelton Sampson, that is, how is he going to continue to assume a leadership role, whether it's more vocal, whether it's understanding that, hey, you are going to get more attention, and so maybe you don't get as many touches? How do you support some of those guys that may get 4 to 5 catches and you might only get 2 in a game, but your 2 might be a touchdown and it might be a quick slant that's for, a big first down? How do you handle some of that in those moments when the team is still being successful and maybe you're not getting as many of your individual numbers as what you would like? That's going to be an important thing as well. I think also offensively, the running back position is going to be really, really big. We know last year, Bill Davis and Zylan Perry were the bulk of your rushing attack, and they are now at other programs. So now it's going to be, what is the running back room of Stephen Blanco and Darrell Smith and J.J. Gardner and Anthony Reagan and Omarion Brown and now Key Ryan Smith coming in? What is that running back room? How do they come together and find ways to say, hey, we might be unknown or we might be unproven, but we can ball too. If you put the football in our stomach, we're going to find a way to go and move the chains. We're going to pick up big first downs. We're going to come out of the backfield and catch passes, and we're going to score touchdowns, and we're going to be successful on offense. That's going to be key for all of those guys, not just as individuals, but also as a cohesive unit. On the offensive line, you also have some experience there as well. George Jackson coming back from injury, like I mentioned. Cooper Fordham is going to have to anchor the center of that offensive line, figuratively and literally. And then Zay Alexander, his name popping up on that list as well. But also, during the spring, Jason Mitchell, who was a transfer for you, got a lot of reps there at tackle. So it'll be interesting to see, is he a potential starter for you? Is he kind of a swing tackle for you? Do you kick him back inside as a guard? How do you utilize him in terms of a rotating position? The guard position, you have Caden Morrow that's going to be entering his senior year. You have Matt Broussard that has some experience under his belt. You had Jacoby Isom that was a true freshman last year. And now, because of the injuries that happened early, he had to go in and he had to play. How do you utilize a guy like that as well? That'll be interesting to see how the Cajuns will iron out what they want to do up front offensively. But they have some experience, particularly at the tackle positions, and then also there at the center position. And yes, at the center position, like I was mentioning. Words are hard, guys. So it'll be interesting to see how 5-1 will gel together. Defensive line wise, we talked about earlier, Fitzgerald West, Maxie Baldwin being the core of that senior group, the leaders on that defensive line. How do they rally the troops and get these guys to understand that they operate as a whole as well? And when, different stunts are called, how do we get back there and we create pressure while maintaining gap integrity? How do we make sure that we can stop the run, that maybe it doesn't even get back there to the linebacker, where we're shedding blocks and getting back there, getting tackles for loss and 1 yard gains, making it very difficult for offenses to get in sync, getting quarterbacks off the spot, making it uncomfortable for running backs to try to slip through holes. That's going to be huge as well. I think that the linebacker position as well, obviously you lost Jaden Duggar, Terrence Williams, that were experienced guys for you. Now you have coming back like a Jake St. Andre and a Caleb Edwards. But after that, you have a lot of younger guys that haven't gotten nearly as many snap experiences. So we will see how guys like a Micah Johnson, a Hayden Darbon, a Connor McPherson, like how will guys like that come in and be able to get experience in playing and make big plays when they're needed to as well. So a couple of different storylines that we'll be looking at as we head there into the fall camp experience. So it'll be truly exciting to see what things will shape up to be as we get toward the 2026 campaign. Before we wrap up, I do want to give a hat tip to Ragin Cajuns baseball right-handed pitcher Cody Brash, who was selected by the San Francisco Giants in the MLB draft. He waited till day 2, obviously going in the 8th round, I believe it was. Yes, in the 8th round, and becoming the 120th player in program history to be chosen in the MLB draft. He went 238th overall. We saw the impressive one lone season that he had in Vermilion and White with a 2.77 ERA, striking out 82 batters, going in 74 and 2/3 innings of work. Early on in the season, he was your ultimate closer. He slammed the door shut, and then he gets opportunities to start, like against LSU and so many other games like that. And he was really, really solid for you in that lone season. So he gets an opportunity to play at the next level. And that long-standing list of guys, especially within these last couple of years, continues to grow for the Ragin Cajuns program, and just proving, like what Matt Diggs has said, what he said after that Starkville Regional, that even though this might be a small pond, there are a lot of big fish that have come out of this program. And now Cody Brash can now add his name into the hat of some of those guys that are on that list as well. So kudos to him. Good luck to him in the future of his career, as the final tip of, I guess, Team 112 gets his final lap there, as he will move on to the professional level. And now it's on to Team 113 in the 2027 campaign for Ragin Cajuns baseball. So that's going to wrap up this episode of Ragin Rundown, guys. If you made it to this point in the episode, thank you so much. If you're watching us on YouTube, please do me a favor. Like the video, share it, leave a comment down below. But most importantly, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you're listening, please follow the podcast feed, rate this show, and leave us a review, because that's going to help us get in front of more Ragin Cajun fans just like yourself. I'm your guy, Jamarcus Fitzpatrick. We'll see you guys next time.